When you come to net, there's two ways your opponent can get the ball by you. He can either try to pass you or he can try to lob you. The overhead is the shot you need to master if you want to be able to put away those lobs when you come to net. It's an extremely offensive shot and a critical shot to master. The mechanics of the overhead in a lot of ways are similar to the service motion, but it's the fact that you're moving when you hit an overhead that makes it a little bit different. The first step of the overhead is very similar to the pivot and the shoulder turn for a forehand or a backhand ground stroke. What you're trying to do is get your body sideways as soon as you realize you're getting an overhead and not a volley. So behind me here, I'm shadowing the overhead, and the very first thing I do is I'm going to get my body sideways. Now the other thing that's happening when I turn sideways is that I'm getting my upper body into a position that's very close to the trophy pose on the serve. I've got my racket and my hitting arm in an L with my racket pointed up, and my tossing arm is extended up in the air. It's not straight up. I'm actually pointing at the tennis ball, so that's a difference between the trophy pose on the serve and the position I'm in here. And the reason I'm pointing at the tennis ball is because that's going to help me judge and time the tennis ball later in the shot when I swing. From the back angle, let's take one more quick look. Adam's feeding the tennis ball to me, and as soon as he hits a lob, my entire body turns sideways. My racket and my arm get to that L position, and I point at the tennis ball with my other arm, and again, that's going to help me judge and time my swing later in the shot. Having completed my preparation by getting my body sideways and getting my upper body into that position that's almost identical to the trophy pose on the serve, I'm going to step forward with my inside foot, and that's going to get my weight moving forward into the shot. And when I swing, the mechanics of my swing are literally identical to how I would hit the ball if I was serving. From this position, the racket drops down behind my back, again, kind of like the racket drop. Then I swing up on edge, and I pronate to make contact with the tennis ball when I'm fully extended. I make contact out in front of my body, and then I follow through down around to the other side of my body, and in this position I'm in here is the completion of my overhead motion. Having completed my preparation, I swing forward to the tennis ball by first stepping forward and getting my weight moving forward into the shot, and then the racket drops down behind my back like the racket drop position on the serve. And what you'll also notice if we rewind it real quick, when this happens, my other arm, which I've extended up at the tennis ball, drops down. I just let it fall just like I was serving. When I swing up at the ball, I swing up on edge, and then I pronate to make contact with the tennis ball out in front of my body, and my arm and my racket are fully extended above my head. And then I follow through by bringing the racket out, pointing the racket head down at the tennis court, and then finally bringing it around to the other side of my body to complete the motion. If we now clip to the back view and see what it looks like from this angle, my preparation is complete. I'm sideways, racket and other arm are in the trophy pose, and then again I step forward, get to the racket drop with the racket pointed straight down, and my tossing arm has begun to drop. I swing up on edge, make contact out in front of my body, and then follow through around to the other side of my body to complete the motion. The scissor kick overhead is a type of overhead you're going to hit when your opponent has hit a good lob and you need to move back quickly to get to the tennis ball. The mechanics of how you actually hit the ball are more or less the same in terms of how your arm, your upper body works. But it's the footwork that defines the scissor kick overhead. Behind me, I'm shadowing the footwork. And what I'm going to do is take a cross step or a karaoke step, and that's where my front foot, in this case my right foot since I'm a lefty, I step across my back foot, my left foot, with my right foot like I'm doing here, and then I step back with my left foot. And I can do this footwork as long as I need to if I need to keep moving back. Let's rewind it, and what's going to happen is when I take this karaoke step, if we watch how I do that one more time, this footwork allows me to move back much more quickly than I otherwise would be able to if I backpedaled or if I side shuffled. So this is how you want to move. The cross step, the karaoke step, if you're getting a deep overhead. Now when I actually when I get ready to hit, I take that cross step and then I step back with my left foot, my back foot, and I'm going to plant, and you can see I sort of pivot here because what happens is I jump off this foot and then I want to land on my right foot, what was my front foot to start. And this footwork here, if we watch it again, allows me to rotate my body back towards the net, and that's critical because that's going to allow me to swing correctly. If I have the wrong footwork, I'm not going to be able to rotate around. I'd have to hit an overhead like this, and that's really awkward. You can't have the correct mechanics doing that. So this footwork, let's watch it again, allows me to rotate back as I swing. Let's quickly focus on my upper body mechanics as I hit the scissor kick overhead, because I had said they were essentially the same as for a normal overhead or for the serve. So as I move back, I take that cross step, and then when I plant with my back foot, my left foot, as I jump off that foot, this is when I start to swing. And you can see as my upper body rotates back towards the net, I drop my racket from the L position to behind my back. It looks similar to the racket drop. And my other arm, which was pointing at the tennis ball, comes down as well. And then as my legs cross, this is when I swing up and make contact with the tennis ball. The racket gets cut off a little bit, but take my word for it, the swing is exactly the same. And then I follow through around to the other side of my body as I land on what was my front foot, my right foot. And then from this position, if I need to, I can recover back to the net, hit a volley, or hit another overhead. Let's start by focusing on my footwork as I move back for the scissor kick overhead. As I come back, I take that cross step. I step across my body with my right foot. And then I'm going to step back with my left foot and plant. And you can see I'm kind of pivoting because that allows me to jump off my back foot like I'm doing here, cross my legs in the air, and then land on my right foot to complete the scissor kick. Now, from the back angle, we'll now focus on the timing of my shot. I take that cross step with my right foot, and then when I step back with my left foot to plant and jump, that's when my racket starts to drop behind my head. And once I jump and I'm in the air, then I'm in the racket drop. My other arm, which was pointing at the tennis ball, has now begun to fall. And I swing up and hit the tennis ball while I'm still in the air. And when I land, now I'm into my follow-through. The racket comes around to the other side of my body. When we talked about the fundamentals of the overhead, I said the very first thing you need to do when you realize you're hitting an overhead is get your body sideways. But I didn't talk about how you needed to do that because there are a couple variations on how to get yourself sideways, and it depends on a couple of factors when you're up at net. Behind me, I'm shadowing two footwork sequences. And on this first one, I'm going to hit my split step and then take a drop step with my left foot, my outside foot, and then cross step from there to move back and hit my overhead. In this next sequence, now what happens is I hit my split and my right foot now, my inside foot comes forward, and then I push off my right foot and step across and then move back to hit my overhead. And basically what happens when you want to use this first sequence, let's go back to it where I just split and I take that drop step. This is a good sequence to use when you're already at net. You've already established position, maybe you've hit a volley or two. But on this second one here, when I split and then step forward, this typically happens when you're splitting and still closing because your momentum is going to be carrying you forward, so you need to step forward and then push off to move back. It's almost like a balance thing where you split and you're still kind of moving forward, so that right foot is going to allow you to push off quickly and then move back and hit that overhead.